We are starting. Please put your headphones on. Thank you. So I assume we are live. I don't know yet. Yes? Okay, great. So welcome very much to our SDG Pavilion event here at the COP29 in Baku. Our topic is igniting the power of transformative partnerships for inner and outer transformation. I think the power of transformative partnerships is something which is very much in the focus now when it comes to implementation, because the huge shift we are going to do in the next couple of years we can only do together. No one alone can do this. No one country can do this. And today we are taking up a bit of a maybe unusual or not so known topic yet, which is the inner dimension of transformation. We have so much out there. We have many technological solutions. We have the political frameworks, and we have also good ideas for how to finance that, but things are not shifting. And the People's Climate Vote from this year shows very clearly that people want to change and are ready and waiting for change. And that actually also tells that we cannot, politicians cannot say, well, we need to be voted and we cannot do a shift drastically. No, people are ready. That's very clear in the survey. So today I would like to start with our first panelist, who will explain the context and of why inner transformation is a very important element when we look at global transformation towards a sustainable world. This is Christine Wamsler, and we can already see her on our screen. Professor Christine Wamsler is at the Lund University, and she is there at the sustainability science. She's doing sustainability science at the Center for Sustainability Studies from the Lund University. She has more than 20 years experience of working on sustainability and climate change related issues, both in theory and practice. Her work has been shaped internationally in debates on personal, collective, and institutional and policy transformations in the context of climate change. Thank you so much, Christine, that from Sweden you are with us here in Baku, and I hand over to you. We are looking forward to hear your presentation.
Thank you, Caroline. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you. So in the next 5 minutes, I will introduce the concept of inner transformation or sustainability. So I will explain why it is important to address human inner dimensions for accelerating climate action and indicate how this can be done. Since I only have 5 minutes, I have summarized my answers to these questions into two messages. The first is that our current approaches are insufficient. In fact, our current approaches to addressing climate change have not catalyzed the necessary change. We are experiencing an ecological catastrophe together with an intertwined worldwide mental health crisis, poverty, and political turmoil. This is because current approaches are based on a mistaken understanding that sustainability challenges, such as climate change, are external threats or crises. And since the way we define problems automatically determines our responses, we address them with external, mainly technical solutions. In addition, current approaches are based on the so-called knowledge deficit model. And the knowledge deficit model argues that if we could only provide all of the information we have to all of the people, all of our problems will be solved. However, we know that this is not correct. And finally, current approaches have not catalyzed the necessary change because there is a clear gap between the work of professionals who focus on sustainability and climate change on the one hand, and those who focus on personal development on the other hand. And this is hampering progress. So as a result, our professional and technological capacities for addressing climate change have been increasing exponentially, but our ability to use them wisely has not. The second key message is that there is a new field that addresses these gaps. In fact, in recent years, a new field has emerged that looks at the interface between inner development, behavior, culture, and system transformation. And this field is called Inner Transformation for Sustainability, or Integrated Inner-Outer Transformation, or Existential Sustainability. So although it is still new, today its importance is increasingly acknowledged by key players such as the UNDP, the IPCC, and the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, among others. The field has contributed to important advancements. It has shown that sustainability challenges such as climate change are in fact a reflection of an inner human crisis. And this inner crisis is based on an increasing separation from self, others, and nature. It results from modern society's story of separation, which assumes that our thinking mind is separate from our feelings and bodily emotions, that we are all separate from each other, that some humans are superior to others, and that we humans are separate and superior to the rest of the natural world. Accordingly, research has also shown that human inner dimensions, which include our individual and collective beliefs, values, worldviews, and associated inner capacities, are deep leverage points for change. And finally, studies in the field have identified how to address inner dimensions across individual, collective, and system levels in an integrated way. So on this basis, the third key message is that there is a growing body of scientific knowledge that can be tapped into to accelerate climate action. So there is a growing community of scholars who, together with educators and practitioners, have created a field of change and communities of practice that support a shift towards more sustainable paradigms and approaches. And they provide concrete input, theories, and frameworks that show how more integrated climate measures can be supported across sectors and scales. So these frameworks indicate that transformation can only be achieved if we systematically address human inner dimensions across scales. And with this, I mean the individual, the collective, and the system level. So measures at individual and collective levels involve activities that can help us to tap into our inner potential and that help us to discover our individual thinking and internalize cultural messages of separation, superiority, and instrumentalization in order to develop alternative approaches and nourish fields of change. And measures at the system level aim to mainstream the consideration of inner dimensions into existing institutional and political systems. So it is about the institutionalization of integrated measures and approaches into existing structures and mechanisms. And with this, I hope that I have given you a very small glimpse into the field of inner transformation for sustainability, why it is important to address human inner dimensions for accelerating climate action, and how this can be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine, for this very clear and pointed and relevant presentation, and also beautiful presentation. Are there questions from the audience to Christine directly? This will be the only chance or opportunity for you to ask questions because Christine needs to leave after her, test.
I saw that there was IDG. What does it mean?
Very good. Did you hear the question? The IDG, what is that? It's the question.
Okay. I think it was on, let's go back. I think it was on this slide. I'm not sure which is what, but I don't know where it was.
The IDG, the Inner Development Goals, what this is.
So I wasn't sure where it occurred on the slides because I think I didn't mention the IDGs. I mentioned the UNDP.
They're here on the slide on the right corner.
Okay. There it is. So yeah, development goals. It's a Swedish-based initiative that is now a worldwide movement, which looks into development goals that are needed to accelerate the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And actually, on the slide here, I wasn't sure that I actually have written, but the symbol that you see, the 5 different circles, is actually the symbol of the heart. So you can sometimes see, like here to the right, have the outer circle of the Sustainable Development Goals, and the inner circles here are the inner qualities and capacities that we need to actually accelerate the sustainable development. So that is the idea behind this, and it's a worldwide movement, and even countries and organizations and universities have signed up.
I hope this was audible because there were some breakings in between. Did you hear or was your question answered? Yes? Okay. Any other question? Okay. Christine, would you like to have a last comment before we move on?
I'm just grateful for the fact that you are organizing this event because, as you mentioned in the very beginning, people do focus much too much on the external aspects of sustainability and transformation, and it's so important to have these part of the COP in order to really phrase how we see sustainability challenges. Once we have rephrased and define them, that will automatically define the way how we have to address sustainability challenges. Thank you very much for the important work that you do.
Okay, thank you, Christine. So then I would like to invite our panelists who are here in the room on stage. And we have 3 panelists. Please come and take your seat. So following from Christine Wamsler's presentation on the inner dimension of transformation and how we really need to include changes on that level, it's a perfect switch, I think, to now come to Sister Jayanti, who's the head of the Brahma Kumaris, the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. And the Brahma Kumaris are the largest spiritual organization worldwide led by women. And Sister Jayanti is a spiritual teacher and a very, someone who travels the world all the time and here at the Climate Change Conference since 2009. So she's the head of the delegation of the Brahma Kumaris and very familiar in bridging the inner and outer dimension of transformation. Sister Jayanti, would you like to share?
Thank you. Om Shanti, a greeting of peace. It means Om, I am, and Shanti means peace. And I'm very grateful that Christine laid out so clearly the need for a different perspective, and that is rather than looking outside, which actually hasn't served us very well, to look inside. So the inner sustainable development goals are the things that are within us. And so it follows on perfectly from your question also. Within the spiritual journey, one always discovers how you're able to find an inner experience of peace, which is at the core of your being. And once you discover that, it helps you enormously in everything that you're doing out there. Just remember how when you felt fearful, what are the reactions you have? Or when you felt calm and stable and steady, what are your responses at that moment? Or even when you felt isolated and divorced from communities, what were your reactions and responses at that time? And if you felt warm and secure and comfortable, and it wasn't just because you're with friends, but it was something happening inside of you. And so that gave you a very different perspective on life. And this is what the IDGs are all about, to be able to develop that inner ability to come to a state of calm, peace, awareness in which I feel part of the unified whole, one in which I feel secure within myself. I have a state of inner self-respect. And you can see that I've just mentioned a few of the developments that happen very quickly on the inner journey. And in different parts of the world, it goes by different names. But basically, it's a chance to give yourself time. One of the words that has come up in recent years is me time. But we can look at that in many different ways also. But when I'm thinking about my own inner being and the way in which I see myself, either as a physical being or a spiritual being, that truly determines my awareness, my attitude, my vision, and my behavior towards others. And so, say, for example, why is there so much materialism and consumerism? And why is it that we're consuming more than 1.5 times the amount of resources that the planet has? And at what point are they going to run out? And at what point are there going to be wars about war? Squabbles between neighboring countries is already on the scenario, but it's going to get worse as we see the resource of precious water declining, but also all the other resources that everything comes from in terms of nature. So when I see myself as part of the whole, then there's a willingness to share, a willingness to collaborate. It's not a question of me and mine alone. And if I translate this into the negotiations that are happening, you don't have to answer me, but maybe there's one or two negotiators here, and if you would have heard what's going on there anyway. But really, it's just the question of me and mine. It definitely isn't a vision with which we can collaborate and do something about the crises that we are facing. And unless we're able to rise above the me and my, we're never going to be able to resolve anything. And having attended all these conferences through all these years, I'm beginning to see a glimmer of hope in that I'm seeing that more and more people are recognizing the inner transformation that's needed. And so if we can accelerate that, firstly through our own personal spiritual practices, and of course time for silence, time for meditation, prayer, contemplation, even positive thinking, which doesn't include any idea of a higher being or anything like that, but just me time in which I'm able to reflect. What is the purpose of my life? What is the significance, and how do I relate to other people around me? All of these are questions that need a little bit of time to answer for myself, or to lead me further into my inquiry for information that can perhaps guide me towards knowledge and truth ultimately. And so I think that this transformation, firstly just of my own identity, in which I'm not restricted by my title, my profession, or even my gender or my age or the color of my skin. when we are able to come deep within ourselves, then we realize that human beings are one family and we share the same values. That's also a factor. We share the same universal values, whether it's love and truth and joy and happiness and so on. And so the inner journey also leads you to the experience of happiness, fulfillment, and meaning, in which truly I feel that my life is worthwhile. And so I would definitely recommend that you may already be on that journey, but if not, you find a path that you're comfortable with, any path that helps you go inside. But secondly, also, if you can connect with like-minded people, because when you're part of a community, you don't have to live in the same house, you don't have to live in the same village anymore, but you can connect together. And so being part of a community means that there's greater capacity of resilience and a greater support for your own development in this way, and a possibility for these ideas to filter out. A message that reaches one individual can actually reach 100 others. And so that's the premise that I'm working with. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Jayanti. I like to offer you the opportunity to ask one or two questions to Sister Jayanti directly before we move on. It was a very personal, shows a very personal opportunity for self-sustenance, for nurturing the self, but also for changing. Any questions? It's a very unique chance, I would say, here in person.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I have done a bit of a journey of transformation in the past 3 years. I used to work for a very a big engineering company, and I had a very cushy job, well paid, and I was actually doing good work. But then I thought I really needed to make a change, because I wanted to put my expertise. I'm an engineer. I wanted to put my expertise at the service of greater good and not to private businesses. And also be freer to kind of pass on my knowledge to others. I just wanted to kind of share this with you and say that perhaps, I have done this inner transformation, but probably not at the pace and the peace, and because I do feel a bit kind of the stress and the urgency of providing solutions and doing more and more and more that doesn't necessarily allow me that me time. That's just a kind of I don't know how to conciliate this.
I don't have to change the world. If I change myself, then that's going to have an impact on others, and the circle is going to grow. And also I believe in that idea that once you reach critical mass, then an idea which at one point seems revolutionary almost and crazy, but that idea becomes acceptable then by the large majority. So if we were trying to change one person at a time, maybe it would be too late. But I know that once we reach a critical mass of people who think in this way and practice ideas in this way, then that's going to reach out to the majority, and the majority are going to start moving there also.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one question from the audience more.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Jayanti, for that very inspiring talk. I just wanted to ask a sort of broader philosophical question. If things are continuing to grow incrementally and you are at peace with yourself and one with... Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. So if we're growing with ourselves and within the universe and the systems that we live in, that suggests incremental growth, and you're continuing along a path of different sort of transformation. What would you say to people who think about, disruption or disruptive innovation to change the way in which we do things? Because if you continue along the same path, you might just get the same results by doing the same thing, but at a larger scale. Mm-hmm. Versus, some thoughts, some levels of thought might be change everything, change bring in disruption so that you can get bigger change. What would you say to people who are in that line of thinking?
What I've seen is that when it's disruptive, then the energy that generates is an aggressive energy. And that's not the energy that's needed at this moment. You need a pure, positive, determined focus, and that's going to bring change. A simple example, say for example, if somebody in my family decides to become plant-based diet and follow that, it's going to create a little bit of disruption anyway within my family circle because not everybody thinks like that. But if we were to say, okay, let everybody become vegetarian, that would be not the right way to do it. But to do it myself and hopefully through my own transformation, influence others around me. And this happens in families.
Thank you, Sister Jayanti. We have now a very practical approach connected to agriculture and biology. We will watch a short video from John Liu, who is... one second. John Liu, who is sitting right here, is an ecosystem ambassador. He works for the Common Land Foundation, but from his main profession, he's a journalist and a filmmaker and an ecologist whose work documenting the restoration of China's losses of China loses plateau and has helped to show that it is possible to restore natural ecological systems. He has done many various forms of field work, and that you will all see in the film. I think you can stay seated here. Maybe John, you move a little bit to your left, right, and if you of course see better, you can take a seat there, but otherwise we can start the video now. Thank you.
The world is facing multiple problems. We have biodiversity loss, climate change, desertification, food insecurity, poverty, disparity, and now the threat of financial collapse. It seems like there are two conversations going on, one in the developed world, which is talking about economics and technical solutions, and another one in the developing world, which is talking about survival and sustainability. I've begun to see this differently. When it comes to survival and sustainability, there's only one story for the human species, and we're all in this together. All our problems are interrelated. Far from being mysterious, they're actually the logical outcomes of the type of economic system that we've created. And this also seems to point toward the solution. We know when we see a forest, a lake, the ocean, a natural river system, the atmosphere, that it's more valuable than computers, cars, or airplanes, which are valuable for a short time, but then become trash and pollution. Natural systems are renewable. They've evolved over billions of years, and they are infinitely valuable. Now, the global economy values production and consumption. And although few understand it, speculation. This has suggested the finite derivatives shaped from the Earth's natural systems are somehow more valuable than the infinitely renewable systems themselves. This is simply wrong. We need to admit that we made this mistake. If we were to truly value natural systems, then nature would become the basis of our money and our economy. To protect nature then would not be a luxury, but a necessity. This brings us much closer to the truth because we must have water, air, and fertile soils. But we just want computers, cars, and airplanes. We can change. It will not be easy, but we can and we must do it. I think there are two possibilities. If we are thoughtful and do the right thing, then we can consciously transition to a new paradigm in which human actions and the natural environment are in harmony. The other possibility is that the current system implodes from its own corruption and mistakes, and we're forced to try to salvage whatever we can of human civilization. For the sake of the children and future generations of life, we need to consciously decide to do the right thing. When we do that, we'll understand that wealth is coming from natural ecosystem function. And this will be the basis of our money. And all human actions will go to conserving and protecting and restoring ecological function on Earth. We need to shift societal intent away from the production and consumption and waste of the economic system as we see it now, and realize that wealth is coming from natural ecosystem function. If we run out of water, if we run out of fertile soils, if we run out of air, if we alter the climate, our money is worthless. We have to understand that the true wealth on the earth is coming from natural ecological function. And if we do this, if we choose this, then our money and our economy will reflect that. And all human activity will go toward conservation and, wherever the land is degraded, restoration. Because that's the way to protect wealth, and that's the way to increase wealth.
I think this is a really fantastic, very clear, very inspiring video. I'd like to again give you the opportunity to ask a question to John, who is here with us. And otherwise, maybe also, again, the panelists are welcome to ask each other questions. That's always something interesting and inspiring. Yes, please.
So thank you for the video. It's really informative, but I also wanted to ask you a question because, as you said, our wealth comes from nature, but it's true for communities. But in the developed world, individuals who are earning money from selling products and selling technology, it's not where the wealth comes from for them. How we can shift that and change their perspective, or collaborate with governments or organizations to change it?
Well, actually, you made an assumption that products or technology are not coming from nature, but in fact they are. We're extracting things from nature, and we're transforming them into products, and then we're buying and selling the products. But it's fundamentally impossible to infinitely grow an economy based on finite resources. So if you just continuously imagine that we can go on doing that, make more cars, more airplanes, more phones, more, that is fundamentally impossible. So look at Johann Rockström's work on planetary boundaries, or even go all the way back to the 70s and look at the Club of Rome's limits of growth, and then consider it. And if you can find that that's illogical, then you'll be the only one on the planet who doesn't understand that that's not possible. So when we look at it, everything comes from nature. And what I've noticed is we have long waves and we have short waves. So we're looking at different frequencies. We're looking at very rapid change, but actually, ultimately, it's going to disappear. Our products are ephemeral. They exist in time. So if they're a year or 5 years or even 100 years or 500 years or 1,000 years, in consideration of cosmic time or evolutionary time, it's nothing. And if we're thinking of ourselves as individuals and not thinking of ourselves as part of humanity and connected to our ancestors and connected to our descendants, then we're really not understanding who we are and what we're doing here. So, selfishness and greed are being expressed on a daily basis. And we can see what are the results of selfishness and of ignorance. We don't know yet what is happening if we are generous and conscious and aware.
You said frequency. What if we find the same frequency with nature? For example, in the nature, one thing transformed to another. Nothing like energy doesn't go to waste. One thing just transform another thing, another form of energy. So if we make products that can transform over time, for example, let's take a car. After being used for some time, we can make another thing from the material. How it can change our way of production?
Yeah, well, that's a good idea, but I think that we have to realize that there is the material world and that there is life. And actually, we as individuals are going to die. I hope that's not news to you. But the reality is we are part of a long history or a long evolution. And we have to develop, we're choosing what the future will be.
Thank you so much. And thanks for the questions as well. I'd like to introduce our fourth and last speaker, Savina Carluccio. Savina is the Executive Director of the International Coalition for Sustainability Infrastructure, and she has 20 years worked as an infrastructure practitioner, also from the UK. And I'm very looking much forward to hear now a very different perspective again as an engineer.
Thank you, Carolin. So I'm on the solutions and I'm kind of trying to kind of apply ideas that can help us change, transform, inner transformation, but also outer transformation, and try and reconnect with nature in a way that I think we seem to have lost. So I'm an engineer. My work is to try and influence the global community of engineers wherever they work, private sector, civil society, academia, government. It's just, the profession traditionally has seen nature almost as an obstacle, something that needs to be controlled and conquered. We've made so many changes to natural processes. We change the course of rivers. We are, that's kind of what we do to do the development, which I'm not saying we should stop development, but we should be rethinking the type of solutions that we implement. And so I am a big advocate within the profession of this idea of really rethinking the hierarchy of solutions to include nature as one of the options, and to actually realize that can be part of the solution itself, and value it. And then, the value of ecosystem functions and all of that. That is going to be, I agree with you, John, that is going to be what will move. If we're able to account the natural capital accounting, if we're able to account for the value that nature provides to us, that will be the way to convince people that there is also some economic return, although it's it's not as fast as a return as other, I suppose, solutions. So as I do this, then I try to work with engineers in I suppose in many different ways to really try and show them that this is not something new. Some engineers, water engineers, have applied natural water management for a long time. So this is not something that is completely new to engineers. It's just not something that traditionally, as I'm a traditionally trained engineer, this is not something I've been taught at university. And that takes me to also what are the skills and the capabilities that will be needed by future engineers so that they're ready when they come to market they're ready to implement that kind of solution. So, and also, I think, like we also as engineers, and then I'll stop, I know like I don't have a lot of time, but as engineers, we do have, I think, a quite a special status in the sense that we're credible professionals. If we go and talk about, we need to implement this because we know this works, because we know it's based on evidence, because we apply the science, like it's kind of that sort of credibility that we have as professionals that I think we can use to actually then advocate for this kind of solutions a lot more.
Thank you very much. Anyone has a question to the practical part, the implementation part from the audience? I see someone smiling. Okay. Yes, please.
I think there's something to be said. So you said that it might not be as fast, or you said that nature-based solutions would be different. I think we need to rethink money. The question really is, what is money? So if money is based on materialism and buying and selling things, then what are we doing? We have plastic chairs which are being shipped around the world in containers with really dirty diesel fuel, and sometimes they just put toxic waste in there to get rid of it and put it in the air. This is bizarre. To say that that's increasing the GDP, that's actual economically valuable, is ridiculous. And if the money were based on ecological function, then you couldn't do that. It would be impossible to pollute. And all human efforts would go toward restoration. And so engineers or agriculturalists or anybody, everybody. And I also think we need to consider, are we here as workers? That's what we are. We're workers. We're consumers. Do we really believe that? So, I mean, if you ask an elephant or a lion or a dog or a cat, or, what are you? Do they walk around and say, oh, I'm a consumer? No, it's ridiculous for us. We consume things, but that should not be our identity. And when we turn into this thing, which is a conceptual, we're not telling the truth. We're breathing oxygen on the only planet that has oxygen that we know of. We can look, all of our devices, all of our spaceships are looking around, telescopes and everything. We don't find any other heavenly bodies.
Yes.
And so how can we not notice that?
Thank you for that passionate and very real and comment. It's a circle which I see from the first presentation over all three of you here. That the whole question is like, as you said, who are we, and where are we, and why are we here? And how do we want to live? And I'm just thinking, just in this moment, can we emerge this awareness of what life is about? Why am I alive? For what am I alive? What is really, really important to me? And in that awareness, can we connect with each other and see each other as these beings on this wonderful, beautiful planet? And I strongly believe, and it's my experience, that this changes the way we also think of solutions and collaborate with each other. On that note, I would like to close with a short meditation, a reflection, because I think when we all connect really powerfully and determinedly in these inner experiences, I would say, we do shift something here. And I'd like to invite Sister Jayanti to guide 2 minutes of meditation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just sitting comfortably, I take this precious time to reflect on the things I've been hearing about. Am I moving forward, internally developing? Am I truly peaceful? Am I happy? Am I seeking love? Or am I ready to share love? What is truth? What is reality? My mind becomes engaged in all these questions. And I ask myself the question of what is the mind? I'm a thinking being. I'm a feeling being. I have a unique personality. And none of these things are connected with the external. They're all connected with the being that I am inside. I go deeper and deeper inside myself. And I realize that there's a space of stillness and peace that belongs to me. And in this inner awareness, when I look around, I see not strangers, I see the human family. I look further and see all forms of life in the amazing myriad forms that life takes. I'm connected. I look further and see all the elements of nature. But now I see the chaos that I have been part of, the journey that has disrupted everything. And now if I stay in that inner space and work from the inside out, I can contribute to a renewal, to a regeneration, and a better world. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your contributions, and thank you for your questions and for coming. And I'm also very hopeful that we together will make a difference in the next couple of years. Thank you. And thanks to the SDG Pavilion organizers.